Hello and welcome to my channel. This is a very bad drawing of a Crite at 1:1 scale, and this is the alien creature which features in the Crite movie, and I'm going to have a go at making one. So I've got a bunch of supplies including fake fur, medium density foam, foam clay, some armature wire and some other bits and pieces. I'm going to start off by making a frame for the legs, and this is why I need the drawing for size reference, or if you're posh you can always use a printout. So I cut out 2 lengths of wire and lay them side by side on a strip of tape. I make sure there's a small gap between them before I wrap the tape around. I add on a couple more layers of tape for additional strength. Because this guy has small feet and a big body, he's going to be top heavy. So I'm going to build up the feet with some tire weights. They probably won't be heavy enough when the creature's complete, but at least they'll help. And those are taped on at the base of the wire. Once again, a couple extra layers of tape will be beneficial. I just need to check that they're nice and sturdy, and the weight feels about right. So it's time to start building these up to actually look like legs and feet. So roll up a ball of foam clay, and then wrap it around the foot. When working with pairs, I'll measure out both sides at the same time. That way they'll both have the same volume and shouldn't look vastly different. Using a sculpting tool, I make the toes. The claws will have to wait until the materials have time to harden. Next, I move on to the legs, applying a familiar technique. This clay is very soft to the touch, so after a while you have to hold it by the exposed metal, so you don't risk any unintentional design changes. I also sculpt in a few creases. For the nails, I tear off 6 identical pieces and roll them into a ball. From there I can form them into the shape of a nail and push them into place. And then it's just a matter of blending them in with a bit of water and a sculpting tool. As you can see, I'm using clamps to allow these to dry in the air, because if they touch the surface they will misshapen and stick to it. Next I move on to the arms. The middle finger will be added first, as that's your anchor point. The 2 smaller fingers will go either side, and that will help to form the hand. When foam clay dries, it has a habit of puffing up a little bit. Plus it will also form a shell. This can be sanded down if it becomes misshapen. Those can be put to one side to fully cure while I work on the main body. And for this I'm using scrap medium density foam. These were picked up from a recycled art store. I'm using my sketch as a template and carving the pieces to match. For anything that needs gluing together, I use contact adhesive. This is applied to both halves and has to wait till it's touch dry. Then all you need to do is gently press both halves together and then they will stick permanently. As you can see, this piece will form the lower body and the upper legs. Bear in mind that this will all be covered in fur, and then I keep referring to the template as I continue to build, although my template has something on the back of it. This is a Putman from a previous build. I will leave a link for it so you can check it out. So not only do I have to build upwards, I need to build outwards too, but I also need to bear in mind that the hair will also add thickness to it, but I can't apply that until the end. This face plate is just a base for the face, the rest of it will be built up with foam clay. I still need to fine tune everything, but that's the basic shape blocked out, and we can have a quick look at where the arms and legs will go, but those will need painting before they're put in place. It's time to start sculpting the face, so I'm going to do the prominent items first, which are the eyebrows, and these will also need a little bit of detailed sculpting in, bearing in mind that these cuts will expand as they dry. The bottom lip is also quite prominent, so I'll put that in next, and that also has some detail to add in. When working with foam clay, it's better to let one batch cure before working on the next one, otherwise you're just going to squash everything as you've got nowhere to put your hands. I picked out a pair of eyes that I like, the only problem is they're too light. So to fix that, I'm going to carefully sand off the backing paper, as I don't want to lose the printed detail on the glass. Once the backing paper has come off, I paint some brown on the back, as this will still allow the black pupil to come through, as you can just about see here. Now I can return to the face and work on the next batch, which is the skin. I first cover the whole area, then add on some crease marks, as this chap is quite wrinkly. If I make any mistakes at this point, I can always wet my finger and rub over it, and that shows just how versatile this clay is. For some extra detail on the skin, I go over it with a toothbrush, and this adds a few random lumps and bumps. You can also use a sponge or cloth, anything that's porous. Then the eye can be pushed into place while the clay is still malleable. Then I'm going to let it cure again before moving on to the final step. So now I can add on the upper and lower eyelids, and they have to be tilted at an angle to make the creature look evil. And as you can see, my fingers are everywhere, which is why it's essential to work in stages. I also add in the appropriate crease lines, and these really do make a big difference with the finished creature. So that's all the sculpting done, and I also test fit the arms and the legs. So I now need fur, teeth and paint, and I'm going to start off with the paint. So I decided to paint the base layer black, and I'm going to get progressively lighter, and that will give me all my shadows and highlights. So I use a medium grey for the next colour, and I apply it as a dry brush. I sweep it from side to side, and that will give me additional crease marks, so it should create the illusion that there's loads of little wrinkles. And I use the same technique for the face. For each subsequent layer I use a lighter grey until I work my way up to a pure white. And then it's time to paint my nails, which always sounds odd to say, and I use the bone white colour for that. Since it's too flat and too clean, I dab on a brown wash, and this ages them up a little bit and makes them look dirty. The final colour to add is a flat red for the inside of the mouth, and this should remain nice and subtle as you don't want a strong colour. Next I need to make some teeth, and for that I'm going to use some styrene rods. These ones are 2.5mm thick, and they need cutting down to size. The critter's teeth are naturally non-uniform, so they don't all need to be the same size, but I do use the clippers to make them pointed at one end. To make the rods easier to insert, I drill a pilot hole with a small round file, then it should slide into place nice and easily and held there with a drop of glue. Then repeat the same process another 50 times. Thankfully in the movies these teeth are chipped and crooked, so they're much easier to replicate than perfectly straight ones. The bottom set are much easier to insert. I glue down a strip of foam to cover up the exposed rods. This is predominantly so the fur has something to stick to, so it will all get covered up anyway. I apply a bone white colour to the teeth to age them up a little bit, and then using the tip of a toothpick I dab on some random red paint, and this will represent blood splatters. I picked up some black and grey fake fur to cover the body with. I find it easiest to cut it up and apply it in sections. That way I can control which direction the fur is brushed. This is all glued on with contact cement, and any gaps that are remaining can be filled in with more fur, and then brush over the seams so it looks like one continuous piece. The final section to add goes under the mouth, and this covers up any teeth which are still exposed. This chap now needs tidying up, so I had to take the comb out of retirement, because let's face it, these days I don't need it for myself. He's now looking a lot more presentable, so it's about time I gave him some limbs. The holes already exist for the arms and legs, it's just a matter of finding them and shoving them in place. Then I can give him one final comb, as well as give him a spray with some hairspray, just to hold all that fur in place, and then I'm happy to call this little Crite done. So all I need to do is feed him some chicken and keep him away from intergalactic bounty hunters. In the film, the more these guys eat, the bigger they become, and they can grow to giant proportions. Plus they also reproduce and lay eggs, so I could make some eggs in a future build. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.